Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Learning Adventures. I'm Sarah, your host today.
And I'm David. Today, we're exploring a fascinating topic from Unit 15, Where Were You Born? We'll be practicing the past tense of to be and sharing stories about our birthplaces and childhood memories.
That's right, David. This is such an important topic for English learners. The past tense of to be, was, and were helps us talk about our past experiences. So, David, let me start with the big question. Where were you born?
I was born in Toronto, Canada. It's a beautiful, multicultural city. My nationality is Canadian, of course. What about you, Sarah? Where were you born?
I was born in Sydney, Australia, so I'm Australian. You know, it's interesting how we use was for singular subjects like I was born and were for plural subjects. For example, my parents were born in different countries.
Exactly. That's a great grammar point. Speaking of parents, my mother was born in Italy and my father was born in Ireland. So I grew up in a very international household. We were always celebrating different traditions.
How wonderful! That must have been exciting as a child. I remember when I was young, I was fascinated by different accents and languages. My childhood was spent near the beach in Sydney, so I was always outdoors, swimming and surfing.
That sounds amazing. I was more of a city kid. Toronto winters were very cold, so I was usually indoors during the winter months. But summers were fantastic. We were always at the parks or exploring different neighborhoods. The diversity was incredible.
Let's help our listeners practice some key vocabulary. David, can you share some countries and nationalities that our listeners might find useful?
Absolutely. If you were born in Japan, you're Japanese. If you were born in Brazil, you're Brazilian. If you were born in Egypt, you're Egyptian. And if you were born in Germany, you're German. Notice how the nationality words often end in an, ese, or ish.
Great examples. Now, let's practice some childhood expressions. When I was little, I was very curious about everything. I was always asking questions. David, what were you like as a child?
When I was young, I was quite shy, actually. I wasn't very talkative in school, but I was really good at mathematics. My teachers were always impressed with my problem-solving skills. I was also very interested in different cultures because of my family background.
That's lovely. You know, these past tense expressions are so useful. When I was young, I was always, we were often. These help us paint a picture of our childhood. What were some of your favorite childhood activities, David?
Well, my siblings and I were always building snow forts in winter. We were competitive, so we were constantly trying to make the biggest and best fort. In summer, we were usually at the community center swimming pool. The lifeguards were very friendly and patient with all the children.
I love how you're using were correctly there. For our listeners, remember, I was, he was, she was, it was for singular subjects, but we were, you were, they were for plural subjects.
Exactly. And Sarah, I'm curious, what was your neighborhood like when you were growing up?
My neighborhood was very quiet and peaceful. Most houses were close to the beach, so the sound of waves was always in the background. My neighbors were mostly families with children, so there were always kids playing in the streets. The local shops were small and family-owned, very different from big shopping centers.
That sounds idyllic. You know, it's interesting how our birthplaces and childhood experiences shape who we become. I think growing up in multicultural Toronto made me more open-minded and curious about different cultures.
Absolutely. And growing up near the ocean made me love nature and outdoor activities. For our listeners, describing your childhood and birthplace is a great way to practice past tense and build vocabulary. You can talk about the weather, the people, the activities, and the feelings you had.
Let's give our listeners some useful phrases they can use. I was born in, my childhood was, when I was young, I was, my family was, the weather was usually, people in my hometown were.
Perfect. And don't forget descriptive words. Peaceful, busy, crowded, quiet, friendly, cold, warm, exciting, boring, safe, dangerous. These adjectives help make your stories more interesting and detailed.
Before we finish, let's do a quick review. The past tense of be is was for I, he, she, it, and were for you, we, they. We use these forms to talk about past situations, feelings, and descriptions.
And remember, talking about where you were born and your childhood is a wonderful way to connect with people and practice English. Everyone has unique stories and experiences to share.
That's so true, Sarah. Well, that's all for today's episode of English Learning Adventures. We hope you enjoyed learning about birthplaces, nationalities, and childhood memories while practicing the past tense of to be.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Keep practicing these structures and don't be afraid to share your own stories. Remember, your birthplace and childhood experiences are part of what makes you special.
Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep sharing your stories in English.
Goodbye for now and see you in our next adventure.